Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 9.
Yeah.
This is episode 9.
Shit.
We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
So, we are here this week to talk about the holidays.
Yeah, they're coming up.
They're going to be here soon. So,
Yeah.
how are we feeling?
I don't know. I feel like as I get older, of course this has to do with familial situations, and everybody's different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like forgetting familial situations and the stress of the holidays and all that stuff, the older you get, the less exciting the holidays are.
Yeah.
They used to be like, oh, hell yeah, I get to decorate the tree, I get gifts from Santa, and now it's like, oh my god, I have $60 in my bank account. How am I getting gifts for all 370 of my aunts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I understand why you would be concerned.
Yeah. Although my family's super, chill with
Yeah.
gifts and stuff like that.
So
I should probably clarify.
Let's talk about traditions.
Yeah.
First. We'll get into the nitty-gritty a little bit later. Let's talk about traditions. What are your traditions for Thanksgiving? What do you do for Thanksgiving?
So in the past, it's been a huge family get-together. In more recent years, it's gotten smaller.
Yeah. Is
no
that because
matter
of COVID or just are people dying?
No. I was gonna say no one's dying. That would be incorrect.
Yeah.
But it's just we're all getting older. Not all of us are kids anymore.
Yeah.
So right after me and my sisters, we have my one cousin who's every time I talk about her age, I feel like she's 8, but no, she's 16.
Yeah.
When did that happen? And then we have the next youngest one, and the youngest of all of us is 7, 6 or 7. So all of us are older now, and the oldest ones are turning 30 this upcoming year, which is crazy. So people are moving out. Who's back home for the holidays? Who's in college? Who just moved out of the state for a job? So now it's just kind of immediate family during Thanksgiving. But we still make sure to call each other, text each other.
Yeah.
Christmas is now our huge celebration.
Do you do Christmas Eve and Christmas Day or just Christmas Day?
Just Christmas Day.
Okay.
Christmas Eve we kind of reserve for immediate family. My family, we don't really do much on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
We usually hole away in our own rooms and do last minute gift wrapping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what we do for Thanksgiving is normally we go to my grandma's for Thanksgiving. But this year, my grandma's really upset about it, but it's just the best thing for us to do. We are doing Thanksgiving at my house.
Yeah.
Not with any of my aunts or anything, because my sister has been dating their girlfriend for 1.5 years.
Awesome.
And we just thought that it would be a better idea to do. And it's okay for me to say this stuff because they don't even know I do a podcast. I didn't tell them because I don't want them to listen to it because I just want to be honest in my podcast.
Yeah.
So the only people that really know about the podcast are people that I wanted to know about it.
That's fair.
Even when I post the episodes, I keep people from if I post them on Facebook, nobody looks at my YouTube channel unless I post a video link on Facebook.
Yeah.
So even when I post the video link on Facebook, you can go through and friends accept. All friends accept, so I'll pick who I don't want to know about the podcast.
Yeah.
Which is good, but anyway, my mom's side of the family very homophobic. Don't know my sister is gay. My sister's girlfriend goes to college at NYU. NYU? I don't know if it's NYU. It's a school in New York.
Columbia, maybe?
It's not Columbia. It's something else. I don't think it's NYU. It's not. It's some school that's a name or something. But I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
It's a university. Or it's a college in New York.
Cornell?
I don't think it's Cornell. I can't remember. It's all right. But basically, what we're doing this year is because my sister's girlfriend lives in Ohio. she doesn't want to go home for like 3 days. It's like a 6-hour.
That's a hike.
Like, she doesn't want to go home and then come back.
That's a hike.
So she's coming to my house for Thanksgiving.
That's awesome.
And my grandma, who is 100,
yeah,
I have to give her credit. I have to give her credit because my sister came out to her. And my grandma's response was, like, very confused as to why my sister was scared to tell her. Like, couldn't understand why she was so worried.
That's so sweet.
The only, like, reservation she had was, like, when my sister was like, I'm dating somebody, it's a girl. My grandma was like, is she Catholic? And my sister, that's an easy lie. That's an easy lie.
Yeah.
So my sister really was like, yes, she's Catholic. So they were like, yes, she's Catholic. So then they texted their girlfriend and they were like, hey, you're Catholic now.
Hey, just so you know,
and
you're converted. And their girlfriend was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'm an atheist, but whatever. Yeah. It's very easy to fake Catholicism.
Yes. So
I have a story for you. Sorry, I just interrupted.
So, we invited their girlfriend to come for Thanksgiving. And my grandma was like, there's always room at the table. My grandma's not the problem. And
your grandmother seems like a saint.
We didn't think it would be respectful to my sister, their girlfriend, or my sister and their girlfriend's relationship, because they've been together for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
To go to my grandma's for Thanksgiving and have my sister have to be like, this is my friend.
Yeah, or then be like, this is my girlfriend, and then have everything erupt.
Yes.
And put them and their girlfriend in a very uncomfortable situation.
Yes. So we didn't want to do that.
Yeah. You guys are awesome.
We're just doing, and my mom had already invited you to Thanksgiving.
I know.
Like, what do you do for Thanksgiving? Do you want to come for Thanksgiving?
She walked up to me with her turkey pan and was like, so it's settled, we're doing Thanksgiving, and then stared at me. And I was like, oh, that's sick.
Bad news for you. She asked me what you do for Christmas Eve.
She's awesome.
We always bring people.
Yeah.
Like, on my dad's side of the family, we're very close with, like, the cousins, nieces, cousins, whatever. Turns 21, the whole side of the family will go out for drinks.
That's sick.
So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And T-Bird was there. He was there because I've known T-Bird since I was very young.
Yeah.
Like, he's been in my family for a long time. He's definitely part of the family. He was Daniel's best friend. He's close with, like, people in my family.
Yeah.
So they 100% are always like, bring your friends.
I love that.
Bring your friend. So my mom wanted me to ask you if you would want to come for dinner and dessert with my side of the family.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check with my dad.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely.
I was supposed to ask you. My mom was like, invite her. I was like, okay.
I love your mom. Your family's
she wanted
so cool.
me to invite you for Christmas Day, too, but she doesn't want to subject you to my mom's side of the family.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But anyway, so...
I'm putting my mic down for 2 seconds
you're good.
to throw my hair up.
Okay. So we're doing Thanksgiving at my house with just me, my parents, my sister, and their girlfriend.
That's awesome.
Which I thought would be better.
Yeah.
Because then there's no pretending that you're not together. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
My aunt's not going to make some stupid comment to my sister about finding the right guy. It's just all that stuff.
Icky.
So, that's what we're doing for Thanksgiving. And then every year...
So sorry about the noise.
Christmas Eve is with my dad's side. And we usually rotate houses. But I'm pretty sure we're doing it at my house this year. For several reasons. I'm pretty sure we're doing it at my house this year. And then Christmas Day, we typically go to my cousin's house. That's what we've been doing. It used to be at my house, but then my cousin got her own place and she wanted to be hosting.
Yeah.
So now we go to her house. She lives in West Milford. And we do all that.
That's cool.
So that's always interesting. Holidays, and we were going to get into this. You and I have very different experiences with holidays.
Yes.
What is your experience? First of all, you were going to say a story about faking Catholicism or something like that. Like I was talking about faking Catholicism, and you were going to tell a story.
It just reminded me, right after my mom passed, one of her best friends, Seton, who I love. I love her. I love her family. My mom has been friends with the same group of women. Since, like, middle school. Yeah. And these women have shaped me into the person I am today. They are just, oh my God, the best people in the world.
Yeah.
like, I consider them very close family. But
Yeah.
Seaton's sister
Mm-hmm.
decided to, I don't know if you're aware of this, I'm sure you are, but you can dedicate masses to people who have passed away.
Yes. Yeah,
And,
you can.
Yeah, so she dedicated one at, I can't remember the name of the church, so I'm not even going to try, in Jersey City, which is the same place that my grandparents, Eileen and Dan, got married. Mm-hmm. I believe my parents got married there. My mother and my father were baptized there. Like,
nice.
Yeah, like, this is...
Yeah.
The church.
Yeah, there's a church like that in my family, but ever since I converted to Methodism, like, I stopped going to that church because it was, like, very fire and brimstone Catholic.
That's fair.
So, continue.
And I was like, I have to go. She's dedicating a mass to my mom. Like, I have to go. It'll give me an excuse to get another day off. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I wasn't rushed back into going to work, but I felt like I had to because being at home was kind of, like...
Yeah.
Suffocating.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't mean
that.
in, like, because of my family way. Like, you know, when you're in the place where you grew up and one person isn't there, it's
it's
a very unique experience that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But, my wonderful partner, Adrian, who I've talked about before, did not grow up with religion.
Yeah.
Is not religious in any way, shape, or form.
Some people just don't.
Yeah.
That's the way my sister's girlfriend is.
Yeah.
She just didn't grow up with it. Like, it's not that they were, like, that her family was, like, no, religion. Like, they just didn't
wasn't
do
a
it.
thing.
They just didn't do it.
It just wasn't a thing.
They weren't, like, don't believe in this.
Yeah.
They were just, like, they just didn't do it.
Yeah. And at the beginning of our relationship, like, we had a conversation, and he was like, I don't ever want you to force me to go to church. Like, I respect your beliefs, but, like, that's not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
And we had that conversation, and I was like, I would never do that to you. He found out this was in Jersey City, and he was like, all right, next week I'm free on this day. I need to wear something nice, don't I? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. So we went, and he insisted on coming with me. Mm-hmm. His choice, not mine. Mm-hmm. Although I will forever be grateful because I was a mess that day. Mm-hmm. So he came to the church with me, and you know how Catholic masses go, where it's up, down, up,
the
down,
bread of
up,
life
down.
is bread.
And so,
Holy Father, pray for us now at the hour of our death.
I'm getting flashbacks. Oh my god.
The Lamb of God.
Every time
God
we would
is
get
my
back up.
shepherd. Yeah.
Every time we would stand back up, he would sit there and just kind of look at me and be like, why are you standing? And I'd have to grab his elbow and be like, up. And
This
he'd
is
be like,
what we
we
do.
were just up.
Yeah.
And I was like, just go with it. Just go with it.
It's a core workout.
It really is.
It's a core workout.
And then we were kneeling, and
Catholic
he's like, I don't want
Mass
to
is a
kneel. And I was
core
like,
workout.
get on your knees.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Catholic
what that
math
reminded me
is
of.
a core. Catholic Mass,
It
not
is.
Catholic math. Catholic Mass is a core workout.
Yeah.
It's like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. You wanted to sit? Just kidding. Get back up.
Yeah, joke's on you.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on you. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to come up with you for communion. I was like, you can't. He was like, let me get up with you for communion.
It's like,
let me go with
like,
you.
you're not baptized.
And I was like,
you can't.
I was like, you can come with me, but you have to cross your arms. You're not allowed. You're not
allowed
allowed
to come. You're not allowed to accept
the communion,
which I think is dumb.
Oh,
I think if people like decide later in life that they want to be Catholic, and like they shouldn't have to get baptized to be able to accept communion.
It's baptized, and then you have to get your communion.
Yeah,
so that's a whole other ceremony.
That's just dumb to me. Like, why do you make it so hard for
me
to be? Like, why do you have to make it so hard for me to practice this religion?
Yeah.
Like, why do I gotta do all this shit?
There are definitely some milestones.
It's like, why do I have to do all this stuff? Just let me eat the bread and drink the wine.
Yeah, legit. And I don't remember if he ended up taking it or not, because that entire day is like a blur.
But also, even if he did,
yeah,
who's gonna stop him? Who's
Not
gonna be
the
like?
priest.
Who's gonna be like? I'm sorry. Did you receive your first communion? Like nobody.
Literally.
They're not like you don't.
Yeah.
It's not like when you get the COVID vaccine, you have a card. Like it's not like they're like, oh, you got your communion on this date. You were baptized at that. Like they don't ask.
Yeah, they're
like,
not like, pull out your file, buddy.
It's like it's not like they're doing like a facial scan to see
Yeah.
who was baptized
Yeah.
and who received their communion. Like it's
Yeah.
like It's like, nobody's going to tell you not to.
Legit.
And then it's like, what is it? And it's like, oh, I'm sinning. It's like, I'm sinning by receiving
Well, there's also like guidelines in certain religions.
Yeah, it's like, Catholic. I'm sorry, am I sinning by receiving and praising God? I'm here, aren't I?
Like I know somebody who won't take communion because she has kids with her boyfriend and they're not married.
So she won't take communion
because it's living in sin. Like, they're strict about this stuff, which is insane to me because I went to Catholic school for forever. Like, I went to Catholic school up until 7th grade, and I was never taught, like, you're not allowed to take communion. I was taught, like, the basics, the outline.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's what
I've been living in sin my whole life.
Literally, me too.
And I've always taken communion.
No, same.
That's crazy.
Legit.
That's crazy.
I think it's only specific religions. Like, I don't know. I wasn't taught that at Catholic school.
But also, like, fire and brimstone Catholics will do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they will be like, you can't take the communion because you're living in sin and you don't deserve it. And it's like, why are you gatekeeping Catholicism? Why are you
let me be friends with homie Jesus.
Why are you gatekeeping my religion? Like, if I believe in God, you should just be happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't be like, that's why, like, I do really like Methodism because nobody's telling me that I'm wrong in the way that I'm living and that I'm wrong in the way that I'm praising God. Everybody's just kind of like, yeah, I'm glad you're here. You know what I mean? Like,
it's very much
that's
like
why
open
I've
arms.
definitely preferred Methodism because it's definitely, there's not like the strictness of like Catholicism. It's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot less criticizing.
Yeah. I also think it depends on the Catholics. Like my mom's friends, they're all, at least I believe they're all Catholic, and all of them are so chill. Mm-hmm. Like, they're so chill.
Yeah.
Like, super cool people. You know what I mean? But I also have, like, great aunts who were, like, tried and true. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah.
It was him being like, we have to get up again.
We have to stand again?
And I'd be like, yeah. And him being like, I don't know the song. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, Catholicism.
And then, like, may peace be with you, and you're shaking everybody's hands.
You're shaking everybody's hands, yeah.
He was like, he's looking around, he's like, what do I do? I was like, shake my hand. And he was like, we're dating. And I was like, not under the guise of the Catholic Church, buddy. May peace be with you.
Peace be with you.
Because, like, under the eyes of the Catholic Church,
in the eyes of the Catholic Church,
isn't a relationship until you're married
in
under
the
the
eyes
sacrament.
of the Catholic Church, you better stand very far away from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was like, I had a conversation with my parents. I have a very open relationship with my parents.
Yeah, which is sick.
So, you know, I'm a sexual assault survivor, and I'm a sexual abuse survivor from my first relationship, and it was crazy to me because I told my parents the first time me and Keith, my ex, slept together. I told them about it because I was so conflicted about the fact that it had been a good experience.
That's
because
fair.
I assumed that because of what had happened to me, and I hadn't dated since that relationship ended, and then he was my first relationship since then, I assumed that it shouldn't be a good experience the first time. I assumed it would be scarier, and I assumed it would take me a while to feel safe. That wasn't the case the first time I had sex with Keith. The first time we had sex, I felt safe. I felt comfortable. He was very good at making, like, honestly, like, it sounds bad, but, like, he doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's fine. The best thing about our relationship is the fact that I learned about healthy sex.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that came out of our relationship.
That's not bad at all. That's really important.
But you never want to say, like, the best thing about the relationship was the sex. But,
yeah,
like,
but that's not what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
It's that I learned a lot about healthy sex. And so we had sex, and he was great. Like, he waited until I initiated it. Like, I told him very early, like, the way I was, and he waited until
like, here are my boundaries.
He waited until I initiated it, and I remember we were making out, and I remember, like, saying to him, I was like, I think I want to have sex. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, are you sure? Because I originally had said that I didn't know when I was going to be ready, but I assumed it would be around when we had been together for like 5-6 months. That was my assumption. I was ready 2 months into our relationship. That was way sooner than I thought I was going to be ready. But I felt safe with him.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I was like, I think I want to have sex. And he was like, okay. And he like panicked. And he was like, okay. And I was like, so it was just really funny. And the whole time he was like, are you okay? Do you want to stop? How do you feel? We can stop. And it was funny because like we got into it, and like after a while, I remember like saying to him, I remember like stopping him and him being like, what? And I was like, no, it's fine. I just like, I'm clearly enjoying this, so you don't have to keep asking if I want to stop.
Yeah,
I was
please
like,
stop.
I was like, it's okay. I was like, I think we've reached past the like jumping off point. I was like, it's okay. I will tell you if I need to stop. You don't have to keep asking. Like, I appreciate it, but look at the way I'm responding to you. Like, I'm clearly enjoying this.
Yeah.
It's fine. And he was great about it, and you know, like he told me what he was going to do before he did it, and he was like taking it very slow. And it was great, and I felt safe. I didn't get triggered while we were doing it. I felt fine. And it was a very good experience for me. And that made me feel guilty.
Yeah.
That made me feel guilty. It made me feel guilty that the first time after my experience wasn't more difficult for me. Because then my brain was, did I overreact to what happened to me?
I get that.
It was like, you know, am I doing something wrong? Like, is it bad that I enjoyed it because this had happened, and was I not supposed to enjoy it because of what? Should it have been harder? Like, am I, by enjoying this the first time after my experience, am I disrespecting other survivors who had a very difficult time the first time after their experience? And so I remember I went home and I was like in my head, and we were eating dinner, and my mom was like, what is up? Like, something is up with you. And I was like, I don't want you guys to get mad at me.
Your mom can read people like a book.
Yeah, and they were like, okay, well, what did you do? And I was like, I'm going to be really honest with you guys, and if you don't want me to talk about it, we don't have to. They were like, okay. I was like, me and Keith had sex. And they were like, oh, okay, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
I was like, really? And they're like, yeah.
Dinner conversation.
But to be fair, I told them about my assault.
Yeah.
And I told them about the abuse.
Yeah.
So, in their eyes, like, this was nothing compared to some of the stuff I had told them.
Yeah.
So we were sitting at the table and we were eating dinner, and my mom was like, how did you feel? And I was like, I felt safe. I felt fine.
Yeah.
And she was like, so what's the problem? I was like,
so why are you telling us
I was
this,
like,
babe?
I feel like I wasn't supposed to enjoy it the first time. And my dad looked up from his spaghetti, and he looks at me and he goes, you want to know why people have sex so often? I was like, why? He goes, because you're supposed to enjoy it.
Your dad's like,
He was
freaking
like,
duh.
it's supposed to be an enjoyable experience. And I remember being like, okay.
Oh, right.
And it was really funny because I remember like saying to them, like, are you guys like mad at me?
Yeah.
And I remember them
get that.
And
That's
I
fair.
remember them saying like, why would we be mad at you?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, like, I don't know why. I remember saying to them, like, and this was a conversation, I remember saying, like, I was worried that you guys would be upset that I was engaging in this before I'm married. And my dad was like, I don't think that's the expectation anymore. He was like, I don't think that's the norm anymore.
No, it's not.
I don't think parents of this generation, or at least most parents, are expecting their kids to wait till marriage, because I think it's kind of an outdated thing.
Yeah.
Maybe like diehard Catholics, yeah. But I feel like it's not the expected thing that it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's not like taboo to be having sex before marriage.
Yeah.
I think it's much more accepted now.
100%.
And so I remember we ended the conversation by my mom saying that the only reservation she has was she wanted to make sure that I had had safe sex.
That's fair.
I remember saying, yes, we use protection and I'm on birth control. So it was totally safe.
Double whammy, baby.
And my mom was like, that's great. And then I jokingly, to like diffuse the tension, there wasn't really tension, but I felt like I needed to make a joke.
Tense, yeah.
I jokingly said, so am I a whore now? like jokingly.
Yeah.
And I was just expecting my mom to like roll her eyes, which she did. And without looking up from his meal, my dad went, "Depends. Did you pay for it?" Or he goes, "Did he pay for it?" And I was like, didn't look up. Didn't even look up at me.
He was waiting for that.
He was like mid spaghetti. And then he looks at me. He goes, "What?" I was like,
"What?
Do you think you're funny?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I do. I do." I was like, "Okay." But, like, it was funny because recently I had a conversation about that with my parents. I remember being like, "I appreciate that you guys were so cool," and we were sitting at dinner. I remember saying, like, I remember when I told them about being assaulted and being abused, that I was really scared that they were going to be mad at me for that, for two reasons. One, at the time, it felt like it was my fault, and I thought that that's how they were going to see it.
Yeah.
And two, I had been sexual with a person before I was married.
Yeah.
And at that time, I hadn't met Keith yet, so I didn't know that they didn't care.
Yeah.
So I remember saying to my dad, I was like, "Yeah, like, you know," I was like concerned that you guys would be mad at me. And he was like, "Well, we're not hypocrites." And I went,
"Stop right there.
And I went,
don't continue your sentence."
And I went, "What did you just say?" And he was like, "Well, we're not hypocrites." And I was like, "I was like, did you guys have sex before you were married?"
"Michael, don't tell me more."
And my dad was like, "You know, we were together for 5 years before we got married, right?" Or, like, I think before they got engaged, they were together for 5 years.
Your mom was telling me, yeah.
And I remember being like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Did you think we waited 5 years?" And I was like, "I never thought about it." And I was like, "But that's not what Mom told me." And my dad turned and went, "Jackie?" And she was like, "You were 14 when I told you that." And
That's
I was like, "Okay." And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, "Interesting." And I was like, "Is that like when you told me that you and Dad met in a restaurant?" And she was like, "Well, that wasn't a total lie." And I was like, "You met in a bar that had a trough in the bathroom. In the men's room, there was a trough. There were peanut shells on the floor, and the bar smelled like piss.
Yeah.
And you told me you met in a restaurant."
Yeah.
And Mom was like, "Shut up." So that was really funny. But I remember, like, having that experience and, like, having that conversation with them. And we do have that very open relationship, which is nice. I don't remember how we got on this topic.
Neither do I. We were talking about holidays.
And we were talking about holidays, and then we were talking about Catholicism.
And then you mentioned how your sister Jay's girlfriend is fake Catholic for Grandma. Yeah. And then I mentioned that I had a story.
And you told that story.
I told that story about my boyfriend's first experience, and probably my favorite experience in the church ever.
I feel like we do this a lot in episodes where we have a whole conversation and then we backtrack and figure out how we got.
But this is the first time that we went from like
holidays to
Thanksgiving. I spent time with my family to. Yeah, when I told my parents about which
I think we were talking about fire. I think we had been talking about Catholicism.
Yeah,
and I was saying
fire and brimstone.
Yeah, I think I was saying my parents were a little more chill.
Yeah.
And I think we started that conversation with like the expectation of waiting till marriage.
That's fair. Speaking of Catholicism, you should watch Midnight Mass.
Oh, we were talking about living in sin.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about that and about like having premarital, and I remember I was and then I got on that topic. Okay. That's so funny. I feel like we do that a lot in these episodes where our ADHD will be like, "How did we get here?"
Yeah.
Which is really funny. You have told me I should watch Midnight Mass.
So good.
But we were trying to talk about holidays.
Trigger warning for like religious trauma.
Yeah.
I have like a super intense fear of death.
Yeah.
Especially for
that's not funny. That's not what I was going to say.
Especially for someone who's going into hospice work.
Yeah.
But
that's
it's super good show.
I think what I was going to say is that's so funny how we were talking. I said let's talk about holidays this episode, and it turned into let's talk about religion.
Yeah.
So I guess this episode is talking about holidays and religion.
Yeah. Did your family ever do Midnight Mass?
My mom went a couple of times with my aunt. I never went.
Neither did I.
I think because...
So thankful for my mom for never dragging me to that.
I think I never went to midnight mass because my mom would go with my aunt when I was, like, too young to be going to a midnight mass.
Families who bring their babies to midnight mass, I'm like, what
and
is
then
wrong
the older
there?
I got, the further I started moving away from Catholicism.
I get that, though.
And I remember that the final nail in the coffin that made me swear off Catholicism and made me try to figure out my religion, because I would not go back to Catholicism, which, I mean, ultimately did lead me to Methodism, which I'm so much happier with. Yeah. Like, I was never interested in Catholicism. Like, CCD classes were a nightmare, because it was just, like, they didn't interpret the Bible. They told me what it said, and then would, like, talk about what it said, and then they would, like, talk about, like, you know, how, you know, sinners go to hell, and, like, you know, like, God is going to punish the wicked, and, like, stuff like that.
I was very lucky.
It was not something I identified with. So, but now, like, in Methodism, I do Bible study every Thursday night. Yeah. Because I think the only time I don't do... No, even when I have therapy, I do Bible study. Because I really enjoy the way Methodism talks about the Bible. Because it's not... Because I don't believe in hell. And I don't believe in a righteous God that will sentence the sinners to eternal damnation.
Yeah, I think that's a little...
Do you know what I mean? And that's a common thing in Methodism, is that people don't believe in that. That's cool. People don't believe in hell. People don't believe in stuff like that. Or they believe in a more, like, merciful, loving God than, like, a righteous God.
Yeah.
So I've been going to Bible study because I like the way that the pastor that I go for talks about Catholicism or Methodism. Talks about the Bible. I like the way he discusses it. He has a very progressive lens, and a lot of it is just like, you know, he views things like we were talking about that passage that all the homophobes quote, that is about, like, man shall not lie with man and stuff like that. That's not what it says. It says man shall not lie with boy. And so people, historically, they weren't talking about homosexuality back then. Like, that wasn't, like...
That wasn't even a thing.
That wasn't even really a thing. Yeah. Like, nobody was talking about that. So, like, in a historical context, it doesn't make sense. But then when you look at it, man shall not lie with boy. They're condemning pedophilia, which is a thing that should be condemned.
100% dog.
And it's like, they're not talking about the gays. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're like, man shall not lie with boy. Kill the gays. Like, it's like, no, legit. Don't be a fucking pedophile. Yeah. Which is a good freaking message. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think so. That's like, that's something I take issue with, is that they always are like, oh, it's in the Bible. No, it's not.
It's literally not.
And then it's like, you know, people in Catholicism will condemn, like, sex workers. Jesus used to kick it with the sex workers. Like, Jesus used to kick it with...
Mary Magdalene was a
sex Jesus worker. Used to...
Canonically.
Yeah, Jesus used to, like, kick it with the prostitutes. You know what I mean? Like...
She washed his face.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, people will say, like, oh, you know, women should, like, cover up and, like, you know, be modest and, like, stuff like that.
Boo!
And then in the Bible, when the men go to Jesus and they're like, Jesus, we're distracted by the women, like, we're looking at them and they're, like, showing, and Jesus is like, okay, that's your fault. Take out your eyes.
Literally.
That's on you. Take out your eyes.
Sorry, babe.
He's like, just... Take out your eyes. That's your fault. If you are going to be so distracted by them, that's on you. Take out your eyes.
Here's an ice cream scooper, baby.
Yeah. So, like, that's why I prefer Methodism, because I agree with the things they say more. But I remember, like, not being that interested in Catholicism. And I was moving further and further away because my beliefs didn't line up. And I haven't told this to a lot of people. But I had been friendly with a priest. Who, when I had been having my, you know, identity crisis and I was, you know, I'm queer, was very accepting. And, you know, would often remind me that I couldn't get married in the Catholic Church, which upset me at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, you know, he was cool about it.
Other than that.
And then my cousin died.
Yeah, I know where this is going.
Yeah, and
stinky priest man.
I lost my cousin to suicide.
Yeah.
And I took a couple months to, like, you know, not get out of bed. And then I got in touch with this priest to try to get some advice.
Yeah.
And he kept telling me that I had to pray. And I remember being like, no, I know I have to pray for God to get me through this.
Yeah, like I've
and
been
I remember
doing
saying,
that.
He was just keep praying. And I remember being like, no, I am praying. I'm praying for God to get me through this. And then I remember him being like, that's not what I'm telling you to pray for. I was like, then what are you telling me to pray for?
What you saying?
And I couldn't understand what he was implying.
Yeah.
I remember, like, he's implying something, but I don't know what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
I was like, can you just tell me, like, outright what you're trying to say? Because I'm not picking up. And it was over text, and I remember being like, I'm not picking up the vibe you're putting out. Like, I don't understand what you're trying to say to me. And he said, well, you need to pray for your cousin's soul. Mm-hmm. I remember being like, well, yeah. Like,
no
that's what
dog.
you do when people die.
Yeah.
And he was like, but you need to pray because your cousin is in hell. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like, what the fuck did you just say to me?
Like, where do you get off?
And he said, well, you need to pray for God to forgive your cousin and allow him into heaven. Mm-hmm. And I remember just being in shock and just staring at this message in front of me and being like,
what?
Did he really just say that to me? And I remember being so hurt that he said that. And I had gone to him for guidance, and he turned it into my cousin being in hell.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
No.
At all. And I remember being so confused. And I said to him, I was like, my cousin's already in heaven. It's like, I'm telling you now. My cousin is in heaven.
Yeah.
And he was like, kicking it. He was like, I understand that you want to believe that. And he started typing his next message, and I blocked him.
Catholics are
And I never talked to him again. And apparently he's like a massive Trump supporter, so.
It fits.
But I remember being like, I'm coming to you, telling you that my life has fallen apart. And you think that it's a good idea to tell me that my cousin, the nicest, kindest, best person I knew, is in hell. And I remember just so firmly disagreeing with that.
Yeah.
And not having a shred of doubt in my mind that my cousin was in heaven.
Yeah.
I remember just being like, I can never go back to Catholicism.
I think that kind of ties into a lot of really bad people masquerade themselves as Catholics.
Yeah.
Not because they want a religion to follow, not because they really are about community and love. Because those really are where, like, the core beliefs of Catholicism lie. Mm-hmm. Like, when I was in Catholic school, it was constantly being taught how, you know, we're all a big family and, like, you need to look out for one another and, you know, everybody was created equal and just be a good person. Mm-hmm. But a lot of bad people will masquerade themselves as Catholics because it is a religion that involves the most control.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy for you to be like, oh, well, I can manipulate this into this. Like, I remember I was struggling with my religion a lot as an early teenager. For reasons I won't get into. Yeah. But I would listen to this radio show every single night, and I don't remember what radio station it was on. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you know, we'll play, like, pop music, but also, like, we're going to read passages and, like, inspirational stuff in between. And I was like, I really vibe with this. I really like this.
That's cool.
I like this better than church. Like, you know, cool.
Yeah.
And I remember one night really struggling, and so I called the hotline that they were available with. And the person straight up said to me, well, if any of your friends aren't Catholic, they're going to hell. And I was like, what do you mean? Whoa. And they were like, it doesn't matter if they believe in Jesus or God. If they're not Catholic, they're going to hell. There's nothing you can do about it. I was 13. Yeah. And then she sent me a packet in the mail on converting my friends.
Oh my God.
And that was when I was like,
yeah.
Maybe I'll just start practicing my religion, like, on the DL.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm at the point now where, like, I don't really know what I am. Like, I believe in a God, but, like, I don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, after that, I was like...
Well, if you ever wanted to...
Then what's the point?
If you wanted to come to Bible study with me and see if you, like, vibe with what he's
Yeah.
saying, like, you're
I'm
more than
always
welcome.
open.
Because Methodism, I felt the same way for a long time, and I feel like you might enjoy Methodism. And that's not me being, like, pushing my religion on you.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I crave, like, church and stuff less for a religious sense.
And for your own.
And more of, like, it's nice to have a community.
Yeah, come to Bible study with me. It's on Zoom. You can just come over.
Okay,
I'll be at my house.
Yeah.
It's on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Like, feel free to just come over, and we could just, you could see if you like it. And if you do, he does Zoom chapel services on Sunday nights. So if you wanted to, like, feel that out. If you don't like it, it's all good.
Okay, yeah.
But just, I remember I wanted to try a bunch of different things. So if you want to, like, figure it out, like, you're free to come in.
I might hit
Yeah,
you up on
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Thank you.
But, yeah, so that was what led me, that was the final nail that got me away from Catholicism.
I don't blame you.
And then I had a come to Jesus moment.
Uh-huh.
I insisted that I was atheist after that happened.
Yeah, that's
But I
traumatic.
wasn't. I 100% was not atheist.
Yeah.
I still believed in a God. And I still would have that thought in my head of, like, what would God think if I did this?
Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't atheist, but I was so against what had been taught to me and what had been said to me that I was, like, I claimed that I was atheist.
Yeah.
But deep down I knew that wasn't true.
Yeah.
So I started college, and I was on the campus watch list, which we've talked about.
Yeah, we have.
I was on the campus watch list.
For a second, I forgot what you meant by that, and I was immediately like, what crimes have you committed?
No, yeah.
My brain went to, like, America.
The mental health.
Well, yeah, but my brain went to America's Most Wanted.
Because freshman year, remember, I was very suicidal.
You were not in a good place.
Yeah, and later in the fall semester, I think it was closer to finals. I think that's why he was there. He was the pastor, Pastor Tim, PT. Love that guy.
PT.
Love PT. He was in the library, and I was sitting in the library. I was doing some homework, and I remember I kept looking over, and he kept, like, looking at me, and just kind of analytically looking at me.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, this guy knows who I am, and he knows I'm on the list. Like, that was my immediate thought.
Yeah.
Is this guy knows who I am, and he knows I'm on the list. So, he was there because he wanted to create a space. So, if anybody wanted to come and say prayers for finals, that they could go and they could pray with him.
That's cool.
And he was in the library because he knew that everybody knew where the library was and not everybody knows where his office is. So he had, like, prayer hours where people could come and they could pray for, like, you know, finals and stuff like that. And he was sitting a table away, and then I was, like, sitting at the table, and I looked homeless because I hadn't showered in, like, 2 weeks, and I looked bad. So he walks over to me, and he's like, hi, do you mind if I sit with you? I'm like, all right. Like, not friendly at all.
Yeah.
I remember being like, okay. Because also, he had the collar, so I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew I went to a Methodist school. I didn't know the difference between Methodism and Catholicism yet.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, this yahoo's going to come over here, and he's going to be saying some shit I don't agree with, and he's going to make me get up and leave the library. I was like, this guy's going to piss me off, and I'm going to have to get up, and I'm going to have to walk out. And I just want to study. And I remember, like, sitting there. And he was like, so you're Ray, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, and he goes, you know, God was telling me I should come over and talk to you. And I was like, was it God or was it the watch list? And he was like, oh, you know about that? Yeah, it was the watch list. And he was like, funny. Oh, you know about that? Yeah, it was the watch list. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought.
Sorry for laughing at
No,
that's very funny.
And he was like, I was like, that's what I thought. It was very funny. And he started laughing, and he was like, so you're on the watch list. And I'm like, yeah, we've established this. And he was like, do you follow any religion? And I was like, if you're going to tell me to pray the depression away, I'm going to smack you. And I said that to him. And I was like, it'll be a sin.
You said that to PT?
I was like, it'll be a sin, but I'll do it. And he could tell I was joking.
Yeah.
But he was like, have people told you to pray the depression away? And I was like, you would be surprised what people said. And he was like, no, that's like a medication thing. And I remember being like,
an icon.
You believe in medication? And him being like, you don't? And I was like, no, I do. I'm on it.
You're like, it doesn't exist.
I was like, it's not working, but I'm on it.
Yeah,
and I remember him being
trying.
like, and I remember him being like, oh, you don't think your medication's working? I was like, no. He was like, you should definitely talk to. Do you have a psychiatrist? And I was like, yeah. He was like, talk to your psychiatrist. And that was the first priest that wasn't like, pray to be happy. And he was like, no, like 100% go to your psychiatrist and raise your meds. Like if you're feeling this bad, do it. And I remember being like, you're a priest, aren't you supposed to tell me to pray? And he was like, I'll tell you to pray, but that's not going to do shit if your meds aren't working. Yeah. And that was what he said, word for word.
That's important.
He was like, that's not going to do shit if your meds aren't working. And I remember being like, okay, like, I'll listen to you.
Yeah, like, you just earned a little bit of respect.
Like, I'll listen to what you have to say. And he was like, and then he asked me again, he was like, but seriously, do you follow any religion? And I was like, I was raised Catholic, and I take issue with a lot of the things that Catholicism taught me. Mm-hmm. He goes, I take issue with a lot of the things Catholicism taught me. Hello, I'm Pastor Tim, let's have a chat. And I remember being like, hi! And I remember being like, I just have a lot of issues with the way that Catholicism made me think about the world, wanted me to think about the world. He was like, oh, we're the same person. And I remember, I was like, really? He was like, do you think I wanted to be a priest? Or a pastor? He was like, no, I didn't want to do that. I take issue with a lot of things with religion, but God was like, you're going to do this. And I was like, well, shit, guess I got to do this now. Yeah. And I remember being like, this is the coolest dude ever. Yeah. He was like reluctant about the fact that he was a pastor. He was like, I didn't want to, but here I am. And I was like,
this is
oh my God. I was like, oh my God. So
I
just remember like saying to him, I was like, you're very different from anything I've ever experienced before. And he was like, what do you know about Methodism? And I was like, nothing. Mm-hmm. He was like, all right, let me tell you about Methodism. And he was like telling me a little bit about like the kind of like, not community, but kind of like the culture around Methodism and like what, you know, like what his church does and how he runs a LGBT support group at his church, the church where he preaches. And I remember being like, okay. And he was like telling me all about it. And I was like, I feel like you're like just trying to tell me what I want to hear. And he was like, no, like this is legit. Like this is why I'm a Methodist, because I feel like you and I think the same way. And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, so what was the final thing that took you away from Methodism? And I showed him my
Catholicism. You mean
Catholicism? Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt.
No. You're right. You're right. He was like, what's the final thing that brought you away from Catholicism? Because I keep in my brain. I'm tired. And I showed him my Daniel tattoo. I have a memorial tattoo. And I remember I said, my cousin died by suicide. And I was told that he was in hell. And he went, oh, God! And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, my, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 19. And he was like, okay, who is this priest? Because I'm about to get real mad. And I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, so... are you telling me that you disagree with this priest? And he was like, yeah. He was like, is that not obvious? Like, yes, I disagree. Yeah. I remember being like, so where do you think my cousin is? And he was like, what was your opinion of your cousin? I told him how great I thought Daniel was. And not how I thought Daniel was, but great how Daniel was. And I remember him being like, okay, so heaven.
Boom, baby.
And I remember being like, oh. I was like, well, what if he'd been a bad person? He goes, okay, purgatory and then heaven. And I was like, what? And so that was my come to Jesus moment, was talking to him and being like, you're so different from anything I've ever experienced.
Not all religious folks are
And then he was like, we talked about, like, the holidays, and he was like, you know, it was going to be the first Christmas without Daniel.
Which is
and he
so hard.
He said to me, he was like, is it okay if we pray? He was like, I want to pray so you can get through these holidays, because it was, like, very close to the end of the semester. He's like, let's pray. Oh, God.
Oh, dear.
The video finished exporting, so it started playing the music.
Oh, my Lanta.
But he was like, let's pray. And I was like, okay, let's pray. So we prayed, and it was the first time I had prayed in a very long time. And we prayed, and he was like, you know, let's pray for Ray to, you know, be able to get through the holidays, pray for their family, and, you know, get through it with grace and be there to support them and their loved ones, and, you know, protect Daniel and your kingdom. And I remember being like, just listening to him pray, and he'd close his eyes, and I was just staring at him like, oh my God.
Like, who is this
I was
man?
like, I just want to listen to you talk about God for hours. I was like, I just want you to help me unlearn everything I learned and, like, teach me what I want to know. So then the semester ended, and in the spring semester, in the very limited time that we had in the spring semester, I was going to his services. He was doing chapel services once a week, and I would go, and I would sit in the pew, and I would pray, and that was when I found Methodism. And I was listening to the things he was preaching. I remember it was like a legit service, and like a very legitimate service. Like, it wasn't like an informal thing. Like, it was a service.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see that he was wearing a flannel and jeans. And I was like,
is iconic.
I was like, the fact that he wasn't wearing, like, the robes, and it wasn't like he was my superior.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like his equal in that room.
Which is so important.
That had never happened to me before. I didn't feel like he was talking down to me. I felt like we were having a conversation.
Yeah, there's definitely a power
crazy.
level in Catholicism.
That was
very
crazy.
important to that religion.
That was insane. And we just talked after the service, and he was like, what did you think? And I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
It's like everything you said. And he was talking about, like, a merciful God, and he was talking about, like, gospel readings and stuff like that. And he was saying, like, you know, he mentioned, you know, what I've talked about, how you should be God loving, not God fearing, and like stuff like that. And I just remember, like, loving it. And then I kind of put religion aside for a while to focus on my mental health during quarantine. And last year, and then this year, like, I went and I talked to him, and I was like, I am confident that I'm a Methodist. I'm more confident than I've ever been in my religion. I was like, I know what I believe, and I know that it's Methodism, and we were talking, and he was like, that's great. Yeah. So I started going to Bible study once a week, and I started going to the chapel services, and it's been great. I love it. I feel good about it. You know, I'm incorporating religion more. I'm praying more. Before dinner, I've been having my family say grace with me. You know, like, it's been great, and it doesn't feel like I'm partaking in something that is hurting me. Yeah. And it feels like something that's being a very positive thing, and it's been great. It's been very good.
Good for you, dog.
It's been awesome. It's really been awesome. And I think my parents err more on the Methodist side as well.
Yeah.
Without even realizing it.
Yeah.
I think because me and my sister are part of the community, and because they've seen the world change throughout their lives.
Oh, yeah.
My parents are boomers. They don't act like they're boomers.
No, they don't.
Yeah, you wouldn't even believe if I told you, right? My parents are boomers.
One of the
62 and 65.
Really?
1962 and 1965. That's the year they were born.
Holy moly.
My parents are boomers.
Yeah.
You would never guess my parents were boomers.
No, one of the first things I ever heard Jackie say was, you were having a conversation. Oh my God, I think this was after the episode that we did with Danielle. And you were talking about the differing views with your mom's siblings. And she just, you wouldn't think she was paying a lick of attention. She's looking at her computer.
Yeah, she was
I
doing
hear
work.
from the corner of the room her just go, yeah, well, I'm the liberal one, so they don't like me. Like, Jackie. I was like, oh.
Yeah. And I remember she's, like, annoyed that her sisters think she's liberal because she just thinks she's being a decent human being.
Yeah, legit.
Like, she's like, I'm not
Your
trying
mom
to
isn't,
be
like, political at all.
My mom's like, I'm not trying to be political. I'm just trying to be a decent human being.
Yeah, literally.
And I'm always like, oh, my God. So it's, like, really funny that my parents are boomers because, like, my parents people will be like, how old are your parents? They'll be like, my parents are boomers. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, no.
Not like that.
You don't know my parents. I'm very lucky to have the parents I have.
Your parents are chill.
Even with the issues I've had with my mom growing up, you know, we're in such a different place than we were even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, therapy's been great with us, and it's just, like, I'm very lucky to have my parents, and I'm very lucky that they are the way they are, and they're so accepting. And I think just because they've seen the world change so much, and I think because they're progressive people, I think as the world started progressing, they went with it. I think they've been very good at keeping up with the times.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been very good at, you know, taking things they were taught growing up and adapting them to the way the world is now.
Oh, yeah.
They've been very good about that, and I'm very lucky to have them. So they're great. You would never guess they were boomers.
No, you really wouldn't.
You would never guess my parents were boomers.
Yeah.
You know, which is crazy, especially because, like, with the way my mom's sisters are, like, it's crazy that, like, my grandma's not like that at all. My grandma's like my mom.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that my mom is so different from her sisters because she's nothing like them.
Yeah.
But they do err more on the Methodist side because they are very accepting and they are very progressive and they do believe in the more merciful, like, forgiving, loving God. You know, my parents kind of see God the same way I do, which is, like, not this great, I mean, yeah, great, but not this, like, omniscient being that sees everything you do and controls, you know, like, is playing chess with our lives.
Yeah, literally.
Like, we all kind of have, I explained that in my view of God, and my dad was like, yeah, that's what I kind of, you know, that's how I feel. Which is, it's just this kind of, like, overseeing dad who, like, will forgive you when you make a mistake and will help you get back up when you fall. And if you do start going the way he doesn't want you to do, he'll, like, kind of intervene. But that's the only time he'll intervene. Like, you know, we believe very greatly in free will. And it's like, he'll intervene in, like, ways you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Like, when I started questioning if I would be good at what I want to do, we had a night outside the Chinese food place where I helped with crisis intervention.
Yeah.
And there was that. And then, you know, and I think there's little things, or, like, putting somebody in your life. You're going to think this is really corny. But I was starting to be like, maybe I don't deserve to have good friends that like me the way I like them and treat and put in the same amount of effort. I've had very little luck with friends. And then we became friends. And now we have that relationship that's very mutual respect, mutual effort. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I have a very ideal friendip with you. And that's why you're my best friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was God being like, here you go. It's like,
let me toss you some bait.
Oh, you're feeling bad about the friendships you've had? You've had a lot of crappy friendships. Here's a really good one. Like, you know what I mean?
Which
like,
is so funny because, like, you entered my life as more than just, like, an acquaintance, like, person I'm chill with.
Yeah.
During a time where I was like, nobody understands what I'm going through. Because the people who did were either their situation was so different from mine in their parental situation that, you know, losing somebody that you're super close with, especially a parent, is life-changing, doesn't even cover it. Like, if you had gotten close with me before that happened, you'd be like, who is this person sitting in front of me?
Yeah.
But I was, like, starting to resent everybody. Like, I was just becoming this angry, like, person who was like, nobody gets it. Like, nobody gets it, so why should I even try? And the only person I was even remotely speaking to about it, I wasn't even talking to my family about it. The only person I was talking to about it was my partner.
Yeah.
And, like, he's never gone through the death of a parent. So, you know, I felt weird going to him and being like, here's all my problems, let me trauma dump onto you. It's not his responsibility. So you were like, sup, and I was like, oh my god, the person who gets it, and you were like, oh my god, a friend.
Yeah.
So we were both like, oh wow, sick, this'll work.
But I remember, like, saying to you, hey, I lost somebody very unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm here. I get it if you want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember us talking, and I remember you being like, I'm not going to get into it, but I had a complicated relationship with her.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying, oh, did I ever tell you about my relationship with my mom? And I was like, and how it's like, she's still alive, but we have a complicated relationship too.
Yeah.
And I remember explaining that to you, and I remember, like, I think this was like one of the first times we hung out. We got coffee.
Yeah.
And we just kind of like trauma dumped. I just remember like sitting and you spoke for like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I just remember feeling so like pleased that you felt comfortable enough, like telling me everything that was going on with you. And I remember like telling you about my relationship with my mom, and I remember you being like, I remember you being like, nobody gets it. Mm-hmm. And I remember being like, well, yeah, like, it's hard to understand a complicated relationship with a parent unless you've had mm-hmm. one. I remember you being like, I remember you telling me how much you appreciated that I told you that. I remember being like, dude, like, it's all good. Like, like, you don't have to have a great relationship with your parents. It can be complicated sometimes.
Yeah, because right when my mom passed, like, I wouldn't now, after, like, a lot of months of working on it, I wouldn't mm-hmm. call the relationship I have with my mom complicated anymore. Mm-hmm. It was very much just, like, I was a teen with a lot of angst, and she was just a very stressed out, very tired lady at the end of her rope with my bullshit. Yeah. Which, I cannot blame her. Yeah. But during that time, like, it was the first year where I was like, wow, like, I'm transitioning into this period of, like, I'm becoming, like, friends with my mom. I enjoy hanging out with her. And then all that happened. Yeah. And I was like, well, fuck.
Yeah, no.
Thanks, God!
I remember, we sat in a coffee shop for, like, 2.5 hours just talking about our parents, and I told you about all my feelings after I lost Daniel. Yeah. And I remember you told me about how a lot of the feelings you were having after you lost your mom were kind of the same. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, like, leaving and going home that night. And my mom was like, how'd it go? And I remember being like, pretty sure I just hung out with my best friend. Yeah. Pretty sure she's going to be my best friend. I was like, if we keep hanging out, like, if this wasn't a one-time thing, I'm pretty sure we're going to be best friends. Oh, yeah. And then, like, 2 weeks later, you text me, and you're like, do you want to get coffee? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God. She reached out. I remember, it was, like, a girl waiting for a boy to call. Yeah. And I remember being like, oh my God, she wants to get coffee. I was, like, so excited. Because I was at a point where, like, I had so much garbage going on with my friends at school who I'm not friends with anymore. Mm-hmm. I remember there being so much drama. I remember, like, kind of saying to God, like, I just want one good friend. Yeah. Like, my friends from home, cool. I want one good friend who is a girl who understands, because all the friends that I've been friends with that were girls have just given me garbage. I'm friends with, like, 2 people that I went to high school with that are girls. Yeah. And I remember being like, just give me one good friend who will be, like, that person, that, like, quirky best friend in the freaking, like, 2000s teen movie. I just want that. And then we became friends. Here I am. Yeah, and I it's very important to me that you understand how much I value you.
I value you too.
Yeah, our friendship is very important to me. Yeah. Very good. It's a big part of my life. Like, I do consider you family.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, yeah. So we've hit our limit.
We started out this podcast talking about holiday traditions.
And then we went right into religion.
Yeah. Before we end this, I do just want to add in a little tidbit. Mm-hmm. I don't have very many holiday traditions. Like, my family, like, we put up a village every year. And, like, that's whatever. Yeah. But every year, around Christmas time, we give my dog a bell. She wears a Jingle Bell necklace. Aww. And every year after Thanksgiving, it's like she knows. Because she'll sit where we keep it. And she'll just tippy-tap until we put it on her. And she keeps it on. She sleeps with it on the whole night. That's
so cute.
Isn't it adorable?
That's adorable.
Yeah. My dog has, she's a big girl. She's a big lady. Who has a baby pink security blanket that my mom gave her. So it's very important to her. She's made it very aware that that's her, like, sentimental connection to my mom, which is the cutest thing ever. Yeah. And wears a jingle bell around her neck. And for at least a day after we put it away. She's so sad.
Oh my god.
We put it away after a little Christmas.
Yeah.
Like Irish Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah. I just wanted to end that on like a little positive
That's
note.
adorable. So, yeah, I was expecting us to talk about holidays. I didn't realize we were going to go so deep into the religion.
Yeah, we dove into that.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. I think it's important to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has their issues with religion. I think it's important for people to know that it's okay to like take your time.
Oh yeah.
Like just because you were raised one way doesn't mean you have to stay that way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's okay to take issue with the things you were raised with and be like, I'm gonna do this different.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Go to something else. Just because you were raised Catholic doesn't mean you have to stay Catholic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not going to hell if you change your mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So. All right, guys. We will see you next week.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. All right.
Hell yeah.
And then after the end of this month, we'll talk all about the fun day we're going to have when I get my wisdom teeth out.
Heck yeah.
And I'm all loopy, and you have to make sure I don't fall out of bed.
Oh, dear.
Have a good day, you guys.
Have a good one.